Da 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 da. Can't you see I'm hurting? No. Again, I slept a week. Please, stop smiling at me. Screw this. Hello everyone and welcome back to Rosenthal Reviews. Today we're talking about Smile 2. The film hit cinemas in the UK yesterday. Now that I've seen it, let's have a chat about it. So once again, this film was written and directed by Parker Finn, and this time stars Naomi Scott as Skye Riley. We're following her throughout this film, dealing with the pressures of, yes, being a global sensation superstar, but also, as we find out, of course, the smile entity attaches to her. And throughout the film, she deals with the supernatural, terrifying events that she can't explain. And let's begin there with Naomi Scott, because she pulls off a fantastic performance here that really keeps you hooked throughout the film. She has to portray this pop star persona to begin with, and you fully buy into that because I've seen Naomi, I think, in Aladdin. She plays Jasmine. We all know she's a fantastic singer, and she records a lot of the songs, the vocals in this film herself, and you can really tell that she's fully immersed in this character. And of course, the more obvious thing is that we need to see her descend slowly into madness. We need to see her get taken over by this smile entity very slowly, and she does this. No exaggeration here, she does this so well. She gives a fantastic performance. I think actually one of the best performances I've seen this year. And on this note, I do think this is where the film Smile 2 does exceed over its predecessor, and that is with the character of Skye, because Skye is very much this in the limelight celebrity pop star surrounded by people. It's bigger, it's bolder, whereas the first film following the character of Rose is a little bit more isolated and a little bit more lonesome. Seeing Skye on stage surrounded by hundreds of people and yet still see this weird freaking scary smiling entity always around her, despite the number of people that she's surrounded with, to me made it feel a little bit more scary, because you are surrounded by people, you have this comfort, and yet it can still get to you. This, combined with the message of pressures and anxiety that a pop star like Naomi Scott would face, it makes for a fairly engaging plot. But I think the first Smile film did it better. Smile 2 is actually, I think, nearly 20 minutes longer than the first Smile film. And you do feel it a little bit. Don't get me wrong, like I wasn't there like checking my watch, but you can feel that this film is significantly longer than the first, and it doesn't need to be. In the first film, sure, you're following the character of Rose and how she deals with her family, her backstory, her work, but it is wrapped in this mystery plot around the entity, discovering more about this entity. It's wrapped in mystery. In Smile 2, we are going over the same ground. We know what's going on. And as a result, that mystery plot is absent from Smile 2. What you've got to keep you engaged is the fun stuff with Naomi Scott as a pop star, yes, and the scares. And let's talk about those scares, because in a similar vein to the first movie, this film does the scares, the jump scares, incredibly well. They're very well balanced. They keep you on your toes. Some of them are very surprising. In a very similar fashion to the first one, the scares here are done brilliantly. And to be fair, the film does go bigger and bolder and improves upon these scares, in my opinion. There's one scene in particular that I think showcases this very well, and that's the scene that you see in the trailer where Skye is being charged at by a group of smiling entities. That's a prime example of how this film does go bigger and bolder with the scares. And in my opinion, yes, does improve upon the first one. But this does lead me to a problem that I have with the film, and that's that the film, it utilizes certain methods and certain tactics in a way to recreate scares that the first film did very, very similarly. There are 2 or 3 sequences that I could pick out in particular. For example, you might remember in the first film when Rose is speaking to her therapist and she gets a phone call and it turns out it's her actual therapist, and the therapist that she's been with the whole time is actually the Smile entity. And in Smile 2, what happens is basically, I won't go into specific plot points for spoilers, but the exact same thing happens. Rose is with a character that she thinks is real. She gets a phone call, it's actually the real character, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, surprise, it's the Smile entity. That was the exact same method to create pretty much the exact same scare, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, I was still like a little girl in the cinema screaming my freaking head off, but the scare was lessened in weight because it used the exact same method to recreate it. Yet, is this movie scarier than the first one? Yeah, on balance, marginally, I'd say this film is scarier. And I tell you what, by a long way, the gore in this movie has been upped 5 times. Like, you see blood. There is blood everywhere. There are guts. There are bones sticking out of places that shouldn't be sticking out of. And it was. One scene in particular, for me, and one that you see in the trailer again, actually, is when the entity is being passed on to the character of Skye. And the guy is killing himself with this weight. And I kind of expected it to just kind of cut to black and be like, okay, yeah, he's dead. It's like, nope, you're just going to keep bashing his face in, and his face just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's like, okay, yep, he's got no face now. Cool, that's just slightly disturbing. Following a bunch of jump scares and freaky little girls freaking me the fuck out, we get to the end of the film, and this is where I am very much split. In the last 20 minutes of the film, they go for something bigger and bolder, and unfortunately I can't really get into it because of spoilers. But I think people will be kind of expecting this a little bit to happen going into the film. For me, it didn't work because it left elements of the film wasted in the prior acts, and it kind of made me think, well, what was the point in that? However, the last 3 to 5 minutes of this film, I really enjoyed. It was an ending that I should have seen coming, but it's a very effective ending and one that leaves me very excited for Smile 3. So, overall, on the Rosenthal Reviews ranking, I'm going to give Smile 2 a 6 out of 10. I found it really difficult to separate the two films, but for me, I think the first film is just a smidge better. On the entertainment echelon, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. Yes, you should go see this film in the cinema, particularly for the jump scares. But you could also get away with watching this on streaming in your living room, because again, the film does retread a lot of ground that we've seen before, and during these moments you might just want to take a break. And then on the feeling factor, I want to give it a smile again, so yeah, I'll give it a smile. But I was also doing this a lot throughout the film. Look, overall, Smile 2, I had fun with it. It is a good film, but I think the first Smile movie does it just a little bit, just a tiny, whiny, little tiny, whiny bit better. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching this video. What did you think of Smile 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And be sure to tune back into my channel next week when I will be reviewing Venom: The Last Dance. You ready, Venom?
Ready.
Jesus Christ! We're in deep shit. And as always, please subscribe for more reactions and reflections, and I'll speak to you all very soon. That was a really bad click.